Good morning. Today is Wednesday, April 19th, 2023. Each of the 5 books of the Torah has more than one name. One of the names that we call each of the books is a word at the beginning of or near the beginning of the book. And that word may or may not overtly refer and connect to the theme and the narrative, the subject matter of that book. Bereshis. Well, that's the first word, in the beginning. Well, has to do with creation. That kind of makes sense. Shemos, which means names, does not seem to overtly refer to the subject matter of the entire book. VaYikra means, and he called, doesn't seem to relate to the subject matter of the third book of the Torah. Bamidbar, which means in the desert. Yes, well, that fourth book of the Torah concerns a lot of the narratives of the Jewish people traveling through the desert. That seems to make sense. Devarim means words. That makes sense because the book of Devarim, the 5th book of the Torah, is largely concerned with the speeches, the words that Moshe spoke to the Jewish people before he died. Okay. But each of those books also has another name, which is descriptive of the narrative and the theme of that book. And those names occur in the writing of our sages, and they are translated into Latin forms of those words. And those are words that many of us are familiar with. The first book is called Sefer HaYetzira, which literally means the book of creation, and many of us know it as Genesis, which means creation. Sefer HaGeula, the book of redemption. We know that as the book of Exodus, leaving Egypt, redemption. Toras Kahanim, the third book of the Torah, the laws of the priests, or Leviticus, the laws relating to the Levites and the priests. Sefer HaPekudim literally means the book of numbers. We translate that as numbers because there's a counting of the Jewish people at the beginning of the book and a counting of the Jewish people at the end of the 4th book of the Torah that kind of bookends the narrative of that book. And the last 5th book of the Torah is called Mishnah Torah. We use the word Deuteronomy, which means what Mishnah Torah is, a review or a restatement of what is in the earlier 4 books of the Torah, which is largely what that 4th book of the Torah is. So this Sefer, this book, VaYikra, or Toras Kahanim, in the middle of which we find ourselves, with this week's Torah portion, the double parsha of Tazria-Metzora, this book is one long answer to the question, what is Kedusha? What is holiness? Next Shabbos, not this Shabbos, but next Shabbos, in the double portion of Acharei-Kedoshim, we have perhaps the most general, comprehensive, fundamental mitzvah of the entire Torah. The Torah commands us, Kedoshim tiyu, be holy. Well, okay. But what does that mean? How do we achieve it? How do we fulfill it? The entire book of VaYikra is an expanded answer to that because holiness has several necessary components, each of which is essential and without which holiness cannot be attained. And our answer of what is holiness is unique. It is different from the answer of other faiths and other belief systems. So, Kedusha starts, holiness starts, with the beginning of this book, the 3rd book of the Torah, the parsha of VaYikra, the parsha of Tzav, with karbanos, with sacrifices. And that took place in the Mishkan, the sanctuary, later in the Beis HaMikdash, in the temple, the Holy Temple in Jerusalem, in this one specific limited location, performed by the Kohanim, the priests. These actions were mysterious, formal, rituals of sacrifices and offerings. Most of them occurred out of view of the people in inner sanctums, the area that was kadosh, holy, the kodesh HaKadoshim, the holy of holies. So that's how it begins. Mysterious, hidden, formal, limited. Then, in last week's Torah portion, the Parsha of Shmini, we introduced another element, which we've discussed before, and that is that the Kohanim, the priests, as part of their ritual of offering sacrifices to God, bless the people. Birchas Kohanim. The Kohanim bless the people. This is an essential element, another essential element, concern for the well-being of all the people, without which no sacrifice is accepted by God. So we now have enlarged somewhat our understanding of what it means to be holy, which includes to bless others, to be concerned with the welfare of others, but still, it's done by the Kohen in the temple, limited, structured. And then comes our Torah portion. The Shabbos, the double portion of Tazria-Metzora, and we have a completely new and surprising element, which is added to our understanding of what is holiness. Now, our Torah portion is perhaps the most bizarre topic in the entire Torah. We've discussed this before, the subject of tzara'as. Tzara'as is mistranslated as leprosy. It's actually not a medical issue which needs a doctor, but a spiritual issue, a lack of Kedusha, a lack of holiness, which requires a Kohen to help. Tzara'as was a physical manifestation on a person of a spiritual shortcoming that needs to be fixed. Our rabbis explain one of the major issues that this addresses is the terrible sin of Lashon Hara, speaking negatively about another person, causing disharmony, causing confrontation, a lack of peace. And the Torah says in our Torah portion that when it would appear a person has been afflicted in this manner, v'huva el Aharon, he is brought to the Kohen. Comes to the Kohen, this person comes to the Kohen, and the Kohen will determine, is this tsaras, yes or no? And if it is, then, the Torah says, badad yeshev, the person is required to leave the camp, leave the city, to sit alone, michutz lamachane mosha'avo, alone, outside the camp, outside the place of living, by him or herself. And that begins a process. And then, a number of days later, vayetze hakohen el michutz lamachane, the Kohen goes outside of the camp, outside of the city. V'ra hakohen, and the Kohen sees this person who had been sent away days earlier, v'hinei nirpa neged tzaras min hatzarua, to see if this person has healed from this tzaras. So note, please, that now we learn something new we never saw before. My friend and teacher Abe Mezrich points out here for the first time, the Kohen goes to the person outside the camp. Up until now, everything the Kohen did was inside the mikdash, inside the holy sanctuary. Now the Kohen goes out to where the person is to see if he is well. and to bring him back. The Kohen's efforts are to go to the person, not just to have the person come to them. To see if this person outside the camp has been able to be healed, has been able to recover their holiness. So this person with Saras was sent away, has been living outside the camp, the city, outside of purity and holiness. And now the Kohen goes outside to where that person is, and the Kohen finds holiness is not only inside, holiness can be outside also. There are many places to find God. To be holy, the Kohen cannot stay inside the mikdash, inside the holy place. If you limit yourself to inside, you cannot achieve holiness. You have to go where people are hurting, where people are suffering, where people are alone, where people have stumbled and met obstacles and faced difficulties and challenges and make mistakes. You have to go to them and you have to bring them back. This is another necessary component of what it means to be holy, to be where people are hurting and to be with people who are hurting. And this is going to lead us to the next step in next week's Torah portion, the Parsha Acharei-Kedoshim, where we will encounter the mitzvah, Ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha. Love your fellow as you love yourself. And as our rabbis tell us, Ze klal gadol b'Torah. This is the main, primary, fundamental underpinning of all of Judaism. But we always ask, what in the world is this mitzvah, V'ahavta l'reacha kamocha, the essential moral, social mitzvah? What is it doing in the book of VaYikra, Leviticus, Torah's Kanim, the laws of the priests? It's here specifically because it is the necessary next step. After Shmini, after Tazria-Metzora, now we're not just concerned with others. Now we're not just going to them, but now the mitzvah applies to every single person, not just the Kohen. And it's not just helping, but loving. Ve'ahavta. When our rabbis tell us, Ze klal gadol b'Torah, this is the main fundamental principle of the Torah, they also mean to tell us this is the pinnacle that completes the description of what it means to be holy. How do you fulfill Kedoshim to you? Well, we now know the series of steps, the series of elements. Any of these elements, without all of the others, is insufficient. They are all necessary. Together, these elements create a comprehensive picture of Kedusha, of holiness, which is our life's mission to accomplish. My friends, I wish you a great day, and I look forward to seeing you soon in person.